Don't make that the initial, just immediate response. Her life is not being threatened. There's nothing violent happening. He's just on the property. She drove by. So why is the police being called? Why is the police involved when it's just her driving by and he's just standing there?
Let's talk about what you got going on. I promise you. Bro, I ain't gonna call the police or nothing. You gotta talk to me, all right? Can't do it like this.
Before you call the police, what else can be done?
I'm dead.
DP.
Welcome to
Building Bridges with Black Men.
All right, we're back. We got here in Seattle. White woman calls police on black man standing at his own house.
Can't even stand in your own house now. Standing outside of his own house.
Yeah. It was in the morning time. Might have been out there drinking coffee, might have been out there just praying. And gets the police called on him. Own place.
Own place.
And you telling me there's nothing else that could have been done before calling the police on him at his own house.
We're not taking light of the situation, but sometimes in life you just gotta laugh instead of cry, because this is story after story that we find that speaks to the same sort of unfortunate situations where folks just are quick to call the police.
Yeah. I said, that's exactly why we're doing this. That's exactly what this podcast is all about.
Right.
Before you call the police, what else could have been done?
What else could have been done? Yep. All right. So let's get into this story. Seattle says a white woman was recorded while calling police to report a black man who was standing outside his home just south of Seattle in White Center. All right. So the woman who's not identified is seen talking on the phone with police dispatch after confronting Dason Barnes, who is a black, the Seattle Times reported. If you guys have a lease, I'd just like to see the lease, the woman told Barnes and his partner in the video. The recorded interaction is similar to other incidents depicting white women calling police on people of color for mundane activities. So in this particular incident, about 11:30 a.m. Wednesday, Barnes said a woman he recognized from down the street drove by his house as he was standing in the backyard. Barnes and his partner had moved into the home about 3 weeks ago and said other neighbors noticed their U-Haul truck. Barnes said he and the woman waved to each other as a normal neighbor would, but she came back and parked in front of the house.
Wow.
So I greet you with a wave, as normal neighbors do, but instead of just potentially waving back and driving on, she comes back and parks in front of the house.
Yeah.
So what is her thought after the initial wave and greeting? Like, let me just go back and investigate a little bit more.
Yeah.
Barnes said that when he approached her to ask if she needed something, the woman said she knew who lived in the home, and accused him of not being a resident there.
Wow. So immediately, you're a criminal.
Yep.
Not that there may be the possibility that you might be visiting.
Right.
Might be a friend. Might be a cousin. Automatically, you're a criminal.
Yep. That's it. But think about it, the woman says she knew who lived in the home and accused him of not being a resident there. Well, apparently she did not know them well enough, because apparently they don't live there anymore.
Yeah.
Okay? So the woman told him he shouldn't be at the property and called 911.
Wow.
Told him he shouldn't be there and called 911. Barnes then went into the house to retrieve his phone to film the interaction and to tell his partner about the dispute, he said. Barnes said the woman's demeanor changed when she saw his partner, who was white. Wow. Okay? I'm a black man, and being out there alone, and for me to go inside to get my white boyfriend, she felt was in the wrong, I guess, and that there was a misunderstanding, Barnes said Friday. I get the sense of her trying to save face for herself and brush it under the rug. So he goes in the house to get two things, okay? He went in and got his phone initially, And then he went back inside to get his partner, okay? White boyfriend. And all of a sudden, things change.
Yep.
So shortly after King County Sheriff's Office, deputies arrived to respond to a report of a potential residential burglary. Spokesperson Zoe Burbick told the newspaper, dispatch advised responding deputies that the caller said that it was a misunderstanding. However, now a verbal disturbance had ensued, Burbick said. In the video, Barnes' partner can be heard accusing the woman of calling the cops because she saw a black man walk in the house. The woman can be heard responding, "Oh my gosh, this has nothing to do with race." Barnes, however, said it was obviously a race thing. Here we go. "I was wearing a hoodie because it's cold that morning, a black hoodie, and she thought I shouldn't be there. I was stealing from the house," he said. Arriving deputies checked Barnes' identification and left after about 5 minutes. No official report was taken, according to Burbick.
He stayed in his own backyard.
That's
Now, then the thing we were saying was, what is in the mind of someone like this? And sometimes we think we're far from that mindset.
yeah,
Especially, listening audience was, maybe saying, well, I would never do that. I would never just call the police on somebody just standing in their backyard. But what could be the scenario that we may go a little too far and be too quick to call the police, other than finding some other ways to resolve the situation, or at least make sure we're a good neighbor?
as she said, I know the people who live there. I guess, I don't know, I live in a neighborhood and there are certain phone numbers of people I have because, one, of proximity, and two, because of the length of time I've lived here. So you get to know people,
Yeah.
particularly if you have children, or if you don't, like, hey, here's my number, what have you, a package comes on the porch, get it for me, whatever. So those sort of relationships have been established. So if I was to see somebody unknown at a person's house, I probably would greet them first and maybe say, hey, do you know Miss Such and Such? Oh, yeah, I do. Or if I greet them and they don't respond back, or if I say, do you know such and such, and they don't respond, I may text and call the person who lives in the home.
Yeah,
But
that
I
makes
don't
sense.
think initially I'm just going to up and call the police.
Yeah. Because in this situation, she pulled up to the front of the house and said, I know who lives here, you don't. I'm calling 911.
Correct. Like, it's just hard to imagine, putting ourselves in a person's shoes. That's this person's go-to. And I doubt this is just her first time doing that.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, when, I don't know if it was Barnes or his partner said, you because he was black, and she says, oh my gosh, this has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
What would have been for her to say, you know what, you're right. I did call because I'm stereotyping, I made an assumption. I mean,
Yeah.
You're not going to get that. That's rare. It's always going to be take the defensive mode. That's not what this is about.
Yeah, and then he said that her demeanor changed when she saw that his partner was white.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then the demeanor changed.
Right. Why did she feel the need to turn around? Would I be okay if she simply would have said, show me the lease, and left it at that? But this is what you said when you opened up. This is what it's about. Show me the lease. And she decided to call the police.
Yeah.
Like,
Right away.
Right away. One, he didn't have to show her anything. And number two, she was probably preparing herself, if he didn't show the lease, which he didn't, to call the police. So don't ask to show me the lease. Just say, I'm going to call the police. This is what I know how to do. This is always one's safety net.
Yeah, we're saying,
And
before you call the police, don't make that the initial, just immediate response. When especially she's not being threatened, her life is not being threatened, there's nothing violent happening. He's just on the property. She drove by. So why is the police being called? Why is the police involved when it's just her driving by and he's just standing there?
But even but think about what she said. I know who lived here.
Yeah.
Why couldn't she have led with that? Hey, how you doing? I'm such and such. I saw you greet me and wave. I was just wondering, you guys now live here because Mr. and Mrs. Such and Such live here.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know anything about them. We rented out the place 3 weeks ago. Oh, okay. But so you identified, you stated him, I know who lived here. You should have followed up like, do they not live here anymore?
Yeah.
Now, if he chose to give up that information, but now it's a simple dialogue between neighbors being neighborly.
Yeah.
Because the article again started out with him waving, her waving, and then coming back. So you didn't really receive my wave. It was just something you was doing to turn around and come back and investigate.
Yeah.
So as we sit here and do this podcast, those to the listening audience, it's not like we're, we picking this thing apart and we're going too deep. No, this is the things that we have either dealt with or finding articles where individuals, Black men particularly, having to deal with these sort of situations. Like it's just mind-boggling time and time over and over again that we're able to find scenarios and situations, sometimes that lead to cops showing up and leaving, other times where cops are showing up and arresting people, and lastly, and more unfortunately, cops showing up and killing.
Yeah.
All because of situations could have been handled differently.
Yeah. And because the police were called immediately.
Right.
Or before any other thing was tried.
Yes.
And we're saying that every situation does not require a hammer. Everything does not require to bring the full force of the law into a situation.
Thank you.
Now, being a good neighbor is fine. That's actually good.
Right.
To say, I am concerned about my neighbors. I'm concerned about my neighbor's property.
Right.
I'm concerned about my neighbor's safety.
Mm-hmm.
And like you just said, if you see someone snooping around your neighbor's property, you're not familiar with their face. It's, who are you?
Yeah.
Hey, do you know so-and-so? Or who are you? I'm just asking, concerned neighbor.
Right.
And then based on that response, at least do that.
Thank you. Yeah.
And then say, based on that person's response, then you can say, maybe it does escalate and you do need to call the police.
Right. Right.
If they become violent towards you, if they run off suspiciously.
Right.
And then you can maybe go to the door yourself, ask if you got your neighbor's number, contact them, text them, call them, but not immediately just say, there's somebody snooping around. I'm in my house, looking out the window, and I see someone snooping around my neighbor's backyard. Let me call the police.
Exactly.
Just immediately.
Exactly.
Not even trying to knock on the door and say, are you okay? Or see if there's a car or if there's a termite truck or something.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pest control or something.
Thank you. Because initially you found out, like, basically what I was pressing you for was a lease agreement. You weren't getting that. Boyfriend comes out,
I think once he came out and found out he was white, then it's like, oh, we don't need a lease no more.
Yeah, we don't need a lease. But now all of a sudden, he speaks up, and then Dason Barnes says something. All of a sudden, now becomes a verbal disturbance, so they need to show up. And if you read the article, he had to show ID. Arriving deputies checked Barnes' identification and left after about 5 minutes. Did they check the other person's identification? So again, it's just time and time when you read these articles, we can't escape it as Black men. We cannot escape it. One, if we individually go through it, collectively, if we see it involving other Black men, you just get tired of it. You just get that, and this is why we do this sort of work. As you said earlier, to give out practical information on what to do. It's good to greet, to be neighborly, just to ask a question. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Such and Such used to live here. They don't live here anymore? No, they've been gone. Okay, well, nice to meet you. Great neighborhood. Something of that sort.
What's your name? Oh, how you doing?
Yeah.
My name's such and such.
Yeah.
You guys like cake?
Yeah.
I'll bring you a chocolate cake.
Yeah. But you
be a good neighbor.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And like I said, a lot of times we may think to ourselves, well, I would never do that.
Right. Right.
I would never just go go up to somebody who's in a house that I knew who lived there before and say, "Oh, you're trying to rob the place. Somebody call the police." But what would we do?
Yeah.
What situations would we do and call the police immediately
Right.
when we could have took at least 2 seconds to try to ask at least a question?
Right.
Especially if it's daytime.
Yeah.
Like, it's different if it's nighttime. That's a different situation.
Right.
This was the morning.
Right. Morning.
Right? Sunlight out. And she was driving on the street. She stopped there at him.
Right.
And approached him.
Exactly.
So apparently she wasn't feeling threatened because she came up to him.
Thank you.
So why is the police being involved?
Right.
Do we immediately say, "Look, let me call the police, there's somebody trying to break in"? Especially if it is a black man looking in your neighbor's window. Do you say, "Let me call the police, he's trying to rob the place"?
Yeah. Yeah.
Even just that alone, that's all we're saying. Because with that, then you can say, if he runs off, if he gets violent, if he whatever, then if you need to call the police, please do it.
Exactly. Exactly.
But if at least we're just saying, do the one step, at least do whatever you can first, not putting yourself in harm, to at least say, what can I do before I call the police?
Right. Because you, again, not to beat this again and again, but you initially greeted him with a wave. You could have came back and did some more initial getting to know.
Yeah.
That's all. No threat. Could have stayed in your car. Could have rolled your window down. Could have engaged in that way.
Yeah, could have keep yourself safe.
Could
Be in
keep
the car
yourself
still.
safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's please be mindful of your interactions. As we said earlier, keep yourself safe. But every situation does not call for you to call law enforcement.
Yeah.
I'd rather you call a neighbor.
Yeah.
Hey, can you just go with me? I just saw somebody just ask.
That's good advice. Yeah.
Just
perfect.
I don't know. Sometimes that could be dangerous. You want to be a tough guy, but just say, hey, did you know Mr. and Mrs. Smith moved out? Oh yeah, they moved out 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
They don't live here anymore. Okay, all right. Why you ask? I saw somebody in the backyard, didn't look familiar in the neighborhood. Just saw, okay, yeah, they moved here. But yeah, before you call the police, you know what else can be done.
Yeah.
And in this story, there's so many. You know what? It's not a lot of things. Just simply asking the question.
Asking the question.
That's all. That's something so simple. Sometimes the easiest things, we make it the hardest thing to do.
Yeah. Especially there was no threat to her.
No threat.
There was no immediate threat to her. She came to the situation
Yeah.
and called the police. So if there's no immediate threat,
Right.
then ask question. But we're saying if there is a threat, the weapon on you or something, yeah, please do call the police.
You're doing
Be
the right
safe.
thing. Right.
But if there's no threat, why bring law enforcement? Now you're putting that black man's life in threat. There's a threat to his life now. But we have hope.
We do. I mean, that's why we did. That's why we do this. We don't do this work to feel down and woe is me. No, we do these for an educational reason. And as you did earlier, giving practical, sound advice. If you can't take anything, they said a lot today, a lot to unpack. The only thing we simply keep saying, before you call the police, what else can be done? If it's a simple situation, sometimes it just takes for a simple action. And this action simply could have been, hey, Mr. and Miss Smith used to live here. I know that I haven't seen them. Did they not live anymore? No, they moved out. Okay, that's enough. Well, who are you guys? That's that. You don't need to, unless he wants to tell you more, leave it alone.
Yeah.
Just leave it alone.
Let's talk about what you got going on. I promise you. Bro, I ain't gonna call the police or nothing. But you gotta talk to me, all right? Can't do it like this. Let's just talk, bro.
Before you call the police, what else can be done?
Can't do it like this. Let's just talk, bro.
What else can be done? Before you call the police, what else can be done?
You making me stop, Daddy. Okay.
Okay, Daddy, you're sorry. Daddy, just make some dinner.